At this time, we know that a car was driven directly at members of the public outside the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue on Middleton Road, Crumpsall, in Manchester. The driver of the car was seen then to attack people with a knife. He was wearing about his body a vest which had the appearance of an explosive device. There were a large number of worshippers attending the synagogue at the time of this attack, but thanks to the immediate bravery of security staff and the worshippers inside, as well as the fast response of the police, the attacker was prevented from gaining access. All those inside were safely contained until police were able to confirm that it was safe to leave the premises. Yom Kippur is a day where we see our Jewish community attending their places of worship, places where they and their families should feel entirely safe from harm. I want to share my gratitude to all of those members of the public who called the police as soon as they saw what was happening. This allowed the quick response from our officers, who were able to act swiftly and bravely to bring this horrendous attack to an end. I also want to thank our partners from the other emergency services, local authorities, and the health service, who have provided their ongoing support to us throughout the day and will continue so to do over the coming days. I know that today's horrific events will have a significant impact on all of our communities, not only in Greater Manchester, but across our country. There will be lots of questions that people would like answers to, and quickly. But please understand that some of this will take time. What I can say is that the highly visible response to these dreadful incidents will be sustained as we work to understand the full circumstances of what has happened. I know that you will all join me in keeping those directly affected by what has happened in our thoughts and prayers. There are grieving families and communities at the heart of this, in Greater Manchester and beyond. I would therefore ask that people refrain from sharing disturbing and insensitive content online. If you have information, then share it with the police. We stand with all of those affected and will continue to do everything in our power to keep our communities safe. I thank you.
Greater Manchester Police, GM, have launched a major investigation after a car was driven directly at members of the public outside the Heaton Park Congregation Synagogue, in what officers described as a deliberate attack. At a press briefing, GIMP Chief Constable Sir Stephen Watson said the incident occurred as worshippers and local residents were gathered near the synagogue. He confirmed that several people were injured and are being treated in hospital, but that none of the injuries are believed to be life-threatening. The attack prompted an immediate large-scale police response. Armed officers and counter-terrorism units were deployed to secure the scene. A suspect was arrested shortly after the incident and remains in custody for questioning. Watson described the attack as deeply concerning and said GIMP was treating it as a serious incident with a possible hate crime element, though he stressed that it was too early to draw firm conclusions about the attacker's motives. Our priority right now is the safety and well-being of the community, he added. The incident has shocked Manchester's Jewish community, which has been on heightened alert following a recent rise in reports of anti-Semitic threats and harassment. Community leaders expressed gratitude to the police for their rapid response and called for calm, urging residents to avoid speculation until more facts are known. Political leaders, including the Home Secretary and Manchester's mayor, condemned the attack and pledged support for the victims and their families. The Home Secretary said the government was determined to ensure the safety of all faith communities, while Jewish advocacy groups renewed calls for increased security at places of worship. The attack at Heaton Park Congregation Synagogue underscores growing concerns about threats against religious institutions in the UK. As investigators work to establish the suspect's background and possible links to extremist networks, security around synagogues and other faith centres in Manchester has been stepped up.
Absolutely, and the police come in for a lot of criticism, but you've got to say this was fine police action, very brave police action, fast police action. And you've got to ask yourself, was there some intelligence here? Were there extra officers on duty? It's Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the biggest festival in the Jewish year. And so was there any intelligence? Were there extra firearms officers? Greater Manchester Police is the second biggest police force in the UK. It's very well led by Chief Constable Steve Watson. And so I can only imagine that they had something, and those extra officers were deployed, hence the speed of the response to this.
And armed officers as well. They were there literally within minutes of this happening. So does that lead you, you know...
It does lead me to believe that there is some kind of intelligence around this, and hence they had extra officers on duty who could rapidly deploy. And we can only pray for the police officer, because we know they'll be subject to all sorts of inquiries and the like now. And additionally to this, you've got the bravery of the Army bomb disposal team who will be there as well, because we don't know if that device is real or not, and neither will they.
No, and that's a really important point to pick up on, the scrutiny that firearms officers are under. How rare it is for firearms officers actually to discharge their weapon in this country. They really do need to be in fear for their lives, because they know there are going to be tribunals, there are going to be investigations. Was it right to fire that weapon? I mean, I think it looks unarguable.
It does look like it.
But there will be that fear.
In their minds, there will be the case that the Met officer was tried for murder. He was found not guilty, but that's how far and ridiculous it can get, that an officer doing his duty in fear, making a split-second decision, is then subjected to that sort of, that sort of scrutiny where they fear they might be in prison for life.
Are you surprised by this happening this morning? As I said earlier on in the show, I've got a Jewish friend who, as soon as this happened, messaged me straight away and said, I was waiting for this to happen.
I can only agree that it's shocking that we're not shocked. And what strikes me, having a lot of Jewish friends, is that in 2025 we're having people murdered for being Jewish in England. Where have we come to? How has this been allowed to ever go on? How have we allowed, not only this, but the police have such a job to do, the counter-terrorism teams. There are thousands of people, particularly Islamic extremists, on a watch list. They can't watch all those thousands of people. And why have those people ever been allowed to be created in their nation? And who is being allowed in today, who we don't know who they are, who harbours hatred against Jewish people? It's just been whipped up, hasn't it? We see the Palestinian flags everywhere. We see Israel being condemned at the highest levels. And I just think it's all in the mix. It all adds to the rise in anti-Semitism and the real fear that Jewish people live in this. It's just, I put my head in my hands that this has to be. That Jewish people are afraid to wear things, afraid to go on the streets. It's just bad.